Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for Sol and BTC. So we've just come out of the New York session, which was basically a complete grind to the downside. Now, some of the structure that's been created during this move down has basically been going up and just testing its hold levels as it goes. So if it does want to do a short squeeze, the structure is definitely capable of pushing up to at least around that 163 on Sol, or back up to about 104 on BTC without really running into too much resistance doing it. Whether they keep grinding it down until closer to daily close maybe and then wick back up, it's a bit hard to tell. However, some of the closes could be quite disastrous today if that price stays at these lows. So looking at the one-day liquidity, people have still been opening longs, so BTC can keep going down if it wants to, definitely down to sort of around the 99, 98 again, and Sol down to 150 would be totally normal based on grabbing all the liquidity to the downside. The upside targets haven't really changed much at all. There's a few more shorts coming in, so we're starting to see things like 108 a little bit more visible on the one day for BTC, and we're starting to see that sort of 170 area, which we already got up to that 170 area on Sol yesterday, and then rejected and kicked off this whole thing. So if we look at the 7-day liquidity, unfortunately, this is the why would they go up? So if you are hoping for some kind of big move to the upside, unfortunately, so is everybody else. And so when you look at the 7-day liquidity on BTC, right down to 95K, and we have these targets in place for 95K. They've been there for a long time. And at the moment, it's pretty easy to go and get it. So I always sort of joke that the price goes up when everyone gives up and stops longing, which is kind of true to a certain degree. But yeah, BTC definitely, people have got bullish on the 7-day, and if we were to do a pump to the upside, you really wouldn't expect it to go much past 107 or 108, looking at the 7-day liquidity. And for Sol, that means we could double bottom, so we could, if BTC starts to take some of the lower liquidity, even though Sol strength has flipped a little bit today and it's not as strong as it has been, but overall on some of the bigger time frames, Sol is stronger. So if BTC went down and took that 95, then you'd probably expect to see Sol go down and hit maybe the 140 level. If it goes to the upside, it's still pretty much capped around that same area. There is some more structure coming in today to point to the 175. There's a lot of it. The charts, there's a heap of arrows pointing to these upper levels, but it's too easy to take these longs because they're right there. So yeah, I don't know. When it bounces, it'll probably bounce fast. So looking at the 30-day liquidity, is still mostly to the upside. So a lot of those people would be feeling pretty safe right about now. It's sitting in clusters which match what all the structural targets are. But unfortunately, there is still a decent amount of BTC to be taken to the downside. And we're bouncing around off that 100K-ish area again today. So we'll see. Maybe it continues up, but yeah, this kind of stuff doesn't typically get left behind when there's confluence with the structure. Okay, let's have a look at these charts. So Sol BTC yesterday failed to close over that 15869, and today it's rejected off it. It looks like it's hit its break level on the daily range, which was that 15283. So at a minimum, it has to close up over that today. If it doesn't, then unfortunately what can happen is you get an interior range trend that forms between the candle on the 8th of November and this current one. And although that range trend will bounce, the fact that it's under the break level and under another range trend may make the bounce just so insignificant. It might just be a tiny little move from 15145 to 15258, just in there, and then it could roll over, reject, and keep going down. So it'd be better if we could get it to close up inside the break level. Then if it does come down and hit the trend, the bounce can normally get up as high as the hold level at the top here, which be about that 15649. But overall, that's a very bearish close. Having hit the break level, being underneath the prior range trend, it's basically way more likely that that is going to go down than up. Okay, let's have a look at the safety assets. Yeah, so they bounced off the horizontal support there at 67.18, and they have created a hold level. So that means we are going to get a range trend like this coming through between the 8th, the candle from the 8th of November and today. Now, as long as we can close with a big enough wick on the top of this, we should be able to hit the back of that range trend and then push back down again, which might just give a little bit of relief to alts. But if the hold level holds, then it'll just continue following the uptrend and head up to these higher levels. So again, that's very, very bearish for altcoins in particular. Really, we need that to not hold that hold level and fall back underneath this trend. So we need to start seeing candles closing below 67.33 if you want to get any more of a push out of alts. Otherwise, it is looking a bit bearish. Okay, let's have a look at these totals. So looking at the totals on the daily, it's not as bad. So it hasn't hit the break level down here at 3.08. We are going to have a hold level. We have pushed back underneath one of the prior trends that we were trying to break, and it shows a pretty clean rejection off that 3.29 level. So realistically, the next thing that's probably going to happen is it's going to get a range trend form. That's going to come through here. Unless it pulls up a bit by the end of the day, the candle's going to open on the wrong side of that trend, and that means it's probably going to have another push down towards the break level, which could shave a bit more off the overall market cap of everything. And really, you wouldn't expect this to be able to find support until it gets down to at least this 3.04, 3.02 sort of region down here. Yeah, not ideal. It was in a very good position to be able to break out, and unfortunately, the system says no. Okay, so have a look at. Yep, so the weekly's rejecting. Still a few days to go on that one. And yeah, I mean that could easily be heading down to 2.79 or even 2.65, which is a pretty big dump. That's sort of implying that you might actually see a bigger drop than what you saw in October. It's interesting. Okay, so if we have a look at the totals excluding BTC, so there's just alts, quite similar structure. It hasn't hit the break level yet, but it is looking like it is going to close under the 1.08. So that's quite a pivotal level, really, because number one, if it closes above that, it should be able to at least have another go at the trend or the hold. And the wick would be long enough on the candle that the range trend should be able to kick in and give it a bit of a boost. But yeah, if it closes below that, the range trend is likely just to bounce straight into the backside of that and then dump again. So yeah, it's looking pretty bearish if it closes there. We really need a pump in the next hour and 56 minutes for this thing to get away from some of these little bad spots. Okay, let's have a look at Sol. Okay, so Sol on the daily is interesting. What if it closes like this, or even a little further up, it's going to end up with a a range trend that is more or less completely flat going across the bottom of the candles. Now, as long as it doesn't go down, it was a little bit of a downwards angle, but as long as it doesn't go down below the wick of this yellow candle, which is the break level, so that means as long as it doesn't close under 155.071, then the range trend can bounce. Now, the tricky part here is that it could just bounce a really small bounce into this downtrend and then reject. It'd be more or less like just an instant dump. You'd go up about $1 and then down it'd go. If it does it early enough in the day, it can push through trends. So that's entirely doable, and it would target maybe as high as this 163.325, and that would be about it. If we open a candle down here and we actually manage to get to 163.35 in the early part of the day, that's pretty lucky, because it's going to have to get back up through a whole bunch of resistance. Now, if they bring the price down even just a tiny bit more, because you've got this level coming through here, which is 156.170, which is this level from back here. And if they bring it down under that and open the next candle, then that'll probably just break through the range trend and continue down. So the next level on the daily, if it continues with the dump, would be about 147.758. So 147.758, and then we'd be back into 145.679 and down from there. So we run into a weekly level at about 141. So overall, it's pretty hard to tell whether this is just one of these good old capitulation events that they do, and it's just going to pull back up before close and then bounce and continue on. It's not the worst close that they could do where it is right now, because they could put, well, the trend is going to move to the underside, so it gives it some support. It's going to have a range trend that's going to give it some support. It's got downtrend and a hold level, but the candle has started from the top side of the trend, so I guess we'll know when it gets right near the end of the day, because if they do push it down to close under that 156.170 or under that 155.070, then yeah, that's a game changer. That's very bearish. So for now, it's a maybe. Might end up closing okay. If you wanted to look at really conservative exits, that'd basically be 158.8, 161, or 163 would be exits if you were in any kind of long and just looking to get out of it. Okay, let's have a look at the 3-day close today. Yeah, that's really been pushed down. So same sort of thing. We've got a support level here that it's just chewing into, 155.721. So we don't want to see it close under that, that's for sure. But really we want to see it get back up over 157.109. So same sort of numbers. And that's kind of a nothing close, other than we get an extra trend brought in. So there's going to be another downtrend. So that's getting a little bit more. Overall, the downtrends are actually sort of a range steeper, which kind of implies parabolic dump. Yeah, so we do have a range trend, a couple of them down here, one at 145, which could support price, and one at about 142. And the resistance is here at 161. So if this candle closes blue, then that 161 level becomes a hard close level, and then you'd expect it to reject more aggressively. But if it closes yellow, then it might be able to make its way back up past there. But yeah, the daily stuff's going to cause a problem regardless, I'd say. even if there is going to be a bounce, it's probably not going to happen super quickly at this stage based on those dailies if they close the way that they look. So same thing on the 7-day. It basically just moved between support and resistance. So if we rewind to one of these videos from 7 days ago, we opened under here. The trade is basically that it moves between the relevant supports and resistance. It's done that now, but it's not breaking either one of them. Looking at that, what it's doing is it's just gone, bounced between them, and stopped, leaving us with a doji. So it just doesn't really tell us what happens next. But suffice to say, if it goes up and hits around 166, it'll probably reject again. And if it goes down to 147, it'll probably bounce again. That's pretty much all that's telling us. So this 9-day, so 9-day time frame could give a bounce between 150 and 166. And 15-day 174 and trend, so about 154. So there's a lot of these timeframes in play. They're just not doing it, mostly because the smaller stuff is just keeping the candle pretty much stuck at the bottom. As soon as that thing gets free, then that's going to bounce between the trend and the hold. And 21-day, it's going to open in the middle of nowhere. These time frames are a bit scary, really, when you if you're a spot holder. So 175 would be the hold candle. Most likely, it will reject off that. And basically, the first support on this time frame is about 127. So that's pretty low down. And 35-day, so we're going to have a hold level at 190.8. We're going to have a new range trend sitting at about 149. We're going to be back under the prior broken trend, which is about 172. And we will be above the normal trend, which is about 156. So yeah, it's really getting, even on these bigger time frames, it's getting pretty compressed. It's hard to say whether that's just going to keep on trying to push down or whether that's going to go up a little bit or a lot. So, okay, so we've hit the break level on the 45-day range, so that's not ideal. That's pretty bearish. So that's 4144.7 was that break level. Now we are potentially going to open above the trend. We could push up into the hold candle. That's another 175 target. So there is still a lot of confluence for numbers between basically 170 and 175. All these time frames should just bounce their trends and travel up. And that is the absolute most bearish point it would go. It would be somewhere between there and 201. But yeah, it's we don't. It's mostly because of Bitcoin. To be fair, Bitcoin's just got such a desire to dump. Sol on the 63-day. So that's, as long as it doesn't close below 151 or 150.458, then that's not too much of anything to worry about. I mean, there are some things that will get tested one day, like this range trend that runs through here. Yeah, that's going to be $79, that kind of thing. One day there will be a wick that comes down and hits that trend, most likely, and unless we can break over this top one, which is about 228. But yeah, it's not, no trends are moving. It's got support at 108, prior broken trend about 123, and there will be some kind of fractal range trend in here, which is going to be about 147. So yeah, 147, and then if it bounces up to hit the top side range trend, that's about 147 through to about 175. So it's definitely looking like 175 is going to be hard work to get past. Okay, and 105-day trend is going to shift to the bottom side, so there'll be a couple of moves that can come out of this. Unfortunately, it's going to, like, with the price where it is, if it doesn't go up above that sort of 161 area, it's going to open on the trend. So that's not ideal. If it was to pump up to its first resistance, it'd be about 195. If BTC sorts itself out and flips bullish and things start moving up, then back to the 260s are back on the table. Okay, let's have a look at BTC. Yeah, so the daily close on BTC could be really bad as well. It needs to pull back up by the end of the day just to get a bit of a longer wick on the bottom of the candle here. It really needs to get back up over about 103.3 just so that it can be clear of the downtrend, in which case the most bearish early point of rejection would be 104.206. So if they continually just keep applying sell pressure for the next 1 hour and 42 minutes, what'll end up happening is the candle will open underneath the range trend, the new one that gets established. It'll be underneath one of the older ones that comes from over to the left there, and then it's going to reject. It'll also be nicely under the downtrend, and it will be back under that wonderful key level of 103.034 that we had to close over yesterday. And if they manage to do all that, then it may not even see 104. It may just reject off anything in that lower area and then go for a dump. So that's looking pretty bearish as well. So there is a range trend down at 100, 100,559, and also this this level down here at 99,541. That's what gave us the bounce last time. 101,041, that was also an origin support level. So these have both been tested now. It's the next untested level is 94K and then 93,456. So yeah, it's looking. So we have got support here. It's been tested. It hasn't sent us to any phenomenally new high or anything. It may support again if we hit it again. It may have a little bounce. It may have no bounce. And if it doesn't, then yeah, expect it to go lower. And that would be relatively efficient because you've got this 97,661 level that is pending a retest, and you've also got this 96,603 level that's pending a retest, and then you hit the support levels. So yeah, it's yeah, and another one at 96,809. So there's 3 targets down there that are all wanting retests, broken break levels, and they just about always get retested. And then just down below that, you've got the base of the range or the origin support. So yeah, BTC really, really, really wants to dump. And unfortunately, if BTC wants to dump, everything goes down with it. So it's yeah, unless they just decide not to retest those break levels, and it is possible. There's every now and then they leave a break level behind. But yeah, there's 1, 2, 3. There's about 3, 4, 5 reasons to go down. So it's looking like it's pretty bearish. So definitely, if it does give a bounce up to 104, that would be an area to just consider de-risking. If it continues on and gets through these trends, then maybe you could reopen your longs, but just it was in a very good position yesterday to break out. It didn't. This has been 8 hours of continuous sell pressure. So someone is dumping. They only do that because they want to buy it back cheaper. So yeah, I don't think you're going to see a huge break to the upside tomorrow. Okay, looking at 3-day. So yeah, 3-day. What are we getting on 3-day? We're getting a trend. So yeah, it looks like it might open on the right side of trend on the 3-day. We rejected off the resistance there at that 106. We're still above support, so as long as we don't lose that 101.4 area, then it's good. So that means if the 1-day goes for a bit of a dive, it can take the 3-day candle on a sweep with it, and then come back up. So yeah, if they're gonna go and grab that liquidity, it would make sense to do it in the next 3 days and take this for a bit of a dive down and then back up. So that's it could bounce from there, but yeah, it's like I say, they don't usually leave that kind of stuff behind. Looking at the 5-day, it looks like it may open. It's just a horrible spot for the candle to be. So you've got what can be support and resistance at 103.034, and we're sitting just below that. And then just down a little bit further at 102.041, you've got what can be support and resistance. We're just above that. We are still above the range trend. That's quite important. We don't want to see a daily close ever below that range trend. And yeah, it would be nice if it just pushed up a little bit more before the end of the day. And the thing is, we've got this big pool of 100x liquidity just sitting right here. It's just ridiculous they haven't taken it. That would make this pool of liquidity right here. I've been playing with the settings on this too as well, and actually managed to get a little bit more, managed to make it a little bit more directionally biased, which seems to be better than the standard settings. So I've shared those in the Discord for anyone that's in there. Yeah, if they were to go and take this liquidity just right at the end of the day, and that would fix a lot of the closes. It really would. But for now, we don't know. Okay, so this is the 7-day trade has played out, so it's gone from the range trend to the hold level. That's all done. It hasn't lost the trend. It hasn't broken the hold level, so it's just going to open in the middle of them again. So they're not really giving much away with some of these. The 9-day is diving the trend. It's not breaking the trend. So the next candle could drop. We had a break level right there that retested. So the next candle could, retest the break level, double bottom, and then bounce back up. It could open and go up first, which is typically a more bearish thing to do because then it would reject and generally come down. Once one side gets triggered, it typically goes to the other. And really the only way for this thing to flip bullish is for it to get right back up above this range trend, this normal trend, and these horizontal levels in the next 9 days, which is a big ask, really. Okay, 15-day. I don't like the 15-day because it didn't quite test the range trend, and that tiny little gap down there where it stopped, just $400 or $500 before it hit that range trend, that says to me it's going to have another go. So just more stuff pointing to BTC just wants to fall over. If it was to push back up, it could push, and it's not going to close below the wick here of the whole candle. So if it does push back up, it could do a double bottom and then head back, or try to head back to 109. Or it could go to 109 first just to induce more longs and then just come back down again, which is the kind of stuff everyone's getting tired of at the moment. If you're going up, just go up. Okay. And on the 21-day, we're on the wrong side of the interior trend. We haven't hit the break level yet. We are below the 1618. So yeah, if it pushes up and taps 107, then it's probably going to come back down again. If it goes down first, it may go up after that, so that gives you sort of a bit of a range that you can look to play between. But if it loses 101, then that 94, and if it loses 94, then 88. There's a lot of confluence on this time frame with the actual structural levels on the backside of the range here, because the final destination for this distribution range is the opening hold of this accumulation range. So that's that's almost a little bit too uncanny. Could mean that we see 88,465. Okay. And this doesn't look like it's going to close below the 1618. So if it doesn't, it can bounce off that and it can head back to the hold, which is the 111. Sorry, this is the 108,577. And then it could reject off that to try and push through. So yeah. If it was to move down just a little bit by the end of the day and close under that 101,927, then just expect a dump down to the next level at 86. So that Sol looks bad. Oh, sorry, BTC looks bad. 45-day, it needs to pull back up a little bit as well. So the closes are all going to be a bit better if it takes that liquidity up to the top of that red liquidity is 103,785. So if it actually goes and does that, then at least it's a little bit further away from the trends and that kind of stuff. So but yeah, if this pushes down or closes on the wrong side of that trend, then it's going to try to move to the next trend, which is going to be around the 80s. So we're starting to see structural moves that could hit the 80s now. There is a support level there, which might give it a bounce at 97,445. Yeah, so it is, of course, a 45-day time frame, so it can sweep all the way down into it, hit the trend anyway, and then go up. So it's all just kind of one and the same move, really. Okay, so this is interesting because we have this broken range trend from March of 24 through to September of 24. So it got hard closed in these two candles here, and then this one is potentially going to tap it. Didn't quite tap it when it was at 97. So it's going to be somewhere around 100 now, like somewhere between 97 and 100 based on the angle of the trend. And that could come back up to the hold here at 107. So and that's probably the most high, like one of the most high probability type trades you can have is range trends to hold. So that might be a little bit of relief. Yep, it's going to be on the wrong side of the prior broken trend though, so maybe there is going to be resistance even in that. Okay, and yeah, getting into the big stuff here, looks like it'll probably open on the wrong side of the trend, so then it could push down to 95 or the hold level here at 93,500. So yeah, that's yeah. If it can find support in these, then it'll test that 153 level. So this is like a really big range. So this is a couple different cycles. So based off this whole candle at the top here, which is the one that never completed, and then all of this is your accumulation, and then this was the move. It's only got a level 2, so level 3 is 153 and level 4 is 187. So in the bigger picture, if simply a time frame like this can find support, then it can continue going up through those ranges. And so you can sort of see why you've got a bunch of people who are bullish and a bunch of people that are bearish right now, because when you look at that, you'd just be going, okay, so when are we going to see 153? But you've also got to consider it's going to open underneath resistance, and then you have to ask, okay, so when are we going to see the 90s? Because that's the next point to call. And if they fail, then it's when do we see the 80s? And if they fail, it's when do we see 63? So, you know, that's the kind of thing that exists when you start looking at these really, really high time frames. Okay, and just showing this one more time, because I showed this in the last couple of videos. That is a range. It's big. It's really, really big. So it's the total market cap, it's a range. If we do get this dump in Bitcoin, and if it does find support, and if this finds this 22-week break level retest at the same time, then yeah, I think you could definitely warrant targeting all-time highs on most things. Yeah, so we'll be keeping an eye on that, because it's only we've only ever broken one or hard closed one range like this before, and unfortunately the price went straight up, and because the price went straight up last time, the retest was the bear market. So yeah, we're much closer to doing the retest this time. If we do it, we could move up. So all right, let's have a quick look at Tesla. So yeah, it opened on the top side of the range trend, so that was a good start. We needed to close there in accumulation. Definitely don't want it getting back below. But really we need the candle to be on the other side of the normal downtrend as well. So hopefully it can open tomorrow above 440.66, and then it could have a bit of a push up. So it looks like it's performed, or trying to perform, the move between the whole candle and the 447.83. So even if all of this happens, it's still going to have resistance when it gets up to 451 now. And then you got your range trend, backside of your range trend at 457, and then you've got all that resistance at the top side there at about 465. So yeah, there's a bit going on there now. If we look at it on the weekly, yeah, so that thing I mentioned about how once you sort of pass through the X of two trends like that, quite often you'll bounce between them. That seems to be what it's doing. But it hasn't touched the bottom trend yet, so that maybe there is going to be a little bit more downside once it hits that resistance. So just keep an eye on how that next candle opens, whether it's clear of the downtrend, and then we'll see how it closes. In accumulation, it breaks the trend. It can challenge these top parts of the range here, which would be that 151 through to 167 sort of area. But if it either doesn't open on the other side of the trend, or if it closes blue, then it's not moving up. All right, that is all for today. Sorry, it's a bit of a bearish one actually, and we really need this pump to happen. What I'm doing is I'm sitting here thinking to myself, are we going to see a October 10 type dump if it goes for these lower levels, or are we going to see more of just a continued or repeated grind like we had through the New York session, or is it going to use some of these really, really big time frame supports that it has been developing and actually bounce, and it seems a bit weird to say it, but you've got Sol has got some stuff that's like 11-week supports that it's built in the last few days, if you've been watching these videos. So we're really close to these trends, like really, really close. And if those trends kick off and bounce, then not much is going to stop it, because a daily candle can slow down an 11-week bounce, but an 11-week bounce is just going to be an 11-week bounce. And when we hit that 11-week origin level there, that was August, tapped that, and then it's basically just been down, 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 down. So we are now at the 11-week trend. So if this thing kicks in and starts moving, then it should be absolutely free and clear to come back up to 109. 209. So it's just a case of are we going to see a haters rally, basically? We've We've got so much stuff pointing down on BTC. It looks really bad, but then you've got other tokens that have got these really big high time frame supports they're building. And it's either that or you're going to get BTC going one way and other tokens going in dead opposite way. So, and that is very, very rare. So anyway, yeah, definitely an interesting market. I can see why there's so much controversy at the moment between people who think it's over and people who think it's just beginning. But yeah, I can't tell you which one the answer actually is, but I can tell you that if I get a move back to 163 on the daily, and if you've got any long positions open on Sol, it's probably a good idea to start to take some. And I can also tell you that they can change everything in the next hour or so, and potentially see as I'm bringing it up now. So 1 hour and 22 minutes. If they keep moving that up, then it changes a lot of bearish to a lot of bullish. So yeah, hopefully you see the education piece of these videos, because when you're an hour away from close, it's still pretty hard to predict exactly what will happen, because they often just keep those cards closed to their chest until right in the last moments is when they'll often position the price. So yeah, but knowing what comes next based on what they do is how you can find the trades. Okay, catch you later.